The Shimakaze is a 4.3 Japanese Squadron destroyer. As a Squadron vehicle, it's the first destroyer that many players will get access to. So, how does it hold up? In this review I'm going to go over its performance and playstyle, but first, I'm going to cover the history of the vessel itself. The Shimakaze is a one-of-a-kind Japanese destroyer. While intended to be the lead ship of the Type C destroyers, it was the only ship of its class that was finished. The design's complexity and Japan's lack of resources and industrial capacity prevented Japan from building any more of the Shimakaze class. It was laid down during 1941, launched in 1942, and commissioned in 1943. The Shimakaze was sunk by American aircraft during the Battle of Ormoc Bay in 1944. In War Thunder, the Shimakaze gets 6 5-inch or 127mm Type 3 cannons split into 3 turrets, one up front and 2 superfiring aft. Initially, Gaijin had intended to give it only 2 turrets, however it was changed to a 3-turret configuration after the community provided some feedback on the improper loadout. The Japanese Type 3 cannon is a bit of a mixed bag, with some very distinct strengths and weaknesses. It has excellent accuracy and is easy to aim, along with having good per shell damage, but has a relatively slow rate of fire at 10 RPM for the first 40 rounds and a fire rate of 9 RPM afterwards. The turrets on the Shimakaze also have a slow rotation rate of 6 degrees per second and practically no survivability, with only about 3mm of anti-fragmentation armor covering the turret. Overall, the Type 3 gun excels at outranging other destroyers due to its excellent ballistics, but it struggles in damage per second compared to faster firing guns. My potentially controversial opinion on these cannons is that I think they're actually some of the best destroyer guns due to how consistent they are. However, they will be outperformed by the guns of other nations at close range. For shells, the Type 3 only gets 2 types of ammo, HE and HETF. The HE should be used against almost all surface targets, as there's no real alternative to it. The HETF shells are alright, though they are negatively affected by the Shimakaze's slow turrets and slow rate of fire. It is worth noting that the Shimakaze gets no form of armor-piercing ammunition, which makes cruisers and American destroyers disproportionately threatening to it. I would recommend bringing almost all high explosive ammunition, with a few shells of timed HE for fighting aircraft. Luckily, the Shimakaze is much better equipped to fight aircraft than most Japanese destroyers, so it's not required. For anti-air weaponry, the Shimakaze gets 21 25mm Type 96 cannons split into 4 triple, 1 dual, and 7 single mounts, along with a single 13.2mm Type 93 machine gun at the rear of the ship. This is a pretty great anti-air armament and can also fight off surface ships in close-range engagements. The 25mm Type 96 is much better in War Thunder than it was in real life due to a scarily fast reload speed, and the Type 93 machine gun is most certainly a Type 93 machine gun. The main issue with the Shimakaze's anti-air loadout is a lack of long-range anti-air weapons, though since Japanese ships get targeted by aircraft a lot, this is actually pretty good for baiting planes into range of the cannons. The Type 96 gets 3 ammo belts, Universal, APT, and HEIT. I'd recommend taking mostly the HEIT belts, as the HEI shells deal the most damage to aircraft and deal pretty substantial damage to surface ships. A few belts of APT can be useful for fighting destroyers at close range if your main cannons get disabled. The last armament of the Shimakaze is 15 Type 93 Model 1 Mod 2 Long Lance torpedoes split into 3 quintuple launchers. These torpedoes have incredible stats with a top speed of 91 km per hour, a maximum range of 20 km, and a massive explosive charge of roughly 672 kg of TNT equivalent explosives. These torpedoes are absolutely excellent, being able to one-shot most ships in the game while having the speed and range to effectively engage all targets. Update 1.101 also lowered torpedo volatility a lot, so now there's not much risk in taking them. It's worth noting these torpedoes may be changed for the Type 93 Model 3 torpedoes due to the Shimakaze historically having those in the refit we got, which have a bit less range but more explosive filler. This wouldn't change much at all though, so regardless of the torpedo type, they will remain a strong spot on the Shimakaze. The survivability of the Shimakaze is its weakest attribute. With no armor and 267 crew, it's pretty squishy and hard to take much damage in. Even patrol boats armed with cannons pose a pretty serious threat to the Shimakaze at close range, so it's worth using island cover or maintaining long range to survive longer. Luckily, the mobility of the Shimakaze makes up for its low survivability. With a top speed of 76 km per hour, it's only beaten in speed by some Russian destroyers and hydrofoils. The high speed of the Shimakaze allows it to pick its battles and makes it more effective on large maps. All of these stats lead into the overall playstyle of the Shimakaze. It excels in many areas, and I would actually give it the unique role of a battle control multi-role vessel. With the high mobility of the Shimakaze, the player can decide the terms of any engagement with some planning. It does well at long range due to its accurate guns and long range torpedoes, and it does well at short range due to the high speed of the torpedoes and the high number of 25mm cannons. The large number of torpedoes can effectively cut off choke points or disrupt large groups of enemy ships, and in the encounter game mode, allow the Shimakaze to snipe multiple convoy ships from long range. The high speed of the ship and the accurate guns make hit-and-run tactics very effective, and the Shimakaze can effectively snipe smaller PT boats that try to cap since its shells tend to hull break them. The Shimakaze is also quite good at retreating, since it can keep 2 of the 3 turrets on any target behind it and flee quickly with its high top speed. With its range of tactics and the ability to decide nearly any engagement, the Shimakaze can really control the flow of a battle with enough planning and strategy. As for specific strengths and weaknesses, the Shimakaze is better than most destroyers in an up tier due to its high mobility and torpedoes scaling better than survivability and cannon-based firepower. Against cruisers, hitting an unaware ship with a few well-placed torpedoes at long range or getting into very close range to confirm a kill are both viable strategies. The main weakness of the Shimakaze would be powerful brawler vessels such as the Fletcher or Sumner, since they're resistant to the Shimakaze's HE shells. Against these ships, I would recommend baiting them into a spread of torpedoes or sniping their turrets to disable their firepower. The lack of armor-piercing shells can make engaging armored ships much more difficult, though the powerful torpedoes do help make up for this weakness. Against cruisers and American destroyers, use the Shimakaze speed to avoid them when possible. Against American destroyers, engaging at long range and sneaking to avoid the relatively slow 5-inch 38 caliber shells can allow the Shimakaze to win in a direct battle. Now for the all-important question. Is the Shimakaze worth it? I would say that it absolutely is. It's an overall great vessel with an excellent mix of stats and is good for both new and experienced naval players. Since the Shimakaze is a squadron vessel, it doesn't need any active grinding to be unlocked, and is a great introduction to destroyer battles for players who want to try them without grinding through smaller ships. I think adding this ship was actually one of the most important things Gaijin could do to help naval. It gives players who might not otherwise try ships a taste of naval combat with destroyers, which the PR-35 failed at due to having a much different playstyle than other Tier 3 vessels. Hopefully this is a sign that Gaijin's listening to feedback and trying to grow the player base of the mode. For the modifications of the Shimakaze, I'd recommend the following order: Toolset, Fire Protection System, Rudder Replacement, Auxiliary Armament Targeting, Primary Armament Targeting, Shrapnel Protection, Propeller Replacement, and Engine Maintenance. For crew skills, prioritize leadership, main caliber reload speed, crew interchangeability, fire prevention, and ship control. Thank you for watching. I want to give a special thanks to Salty Swede for helping with this video, since I wasn't able to get the green screened pictures used for my video graphics due to War Thunder's Code Spaghetti disliking my laptop. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more naval content.